I want to speak on a short Tafsir real quick. Bithni Allah Ta'ala. So when you go to Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 208, 209, and 210. So in 208, it says, O you who believe, enter Islam perfectly, wholeheartedly, with sincerity, and follow not the footsteps of Shaitan. Verily, he is to you a plain, open enemy. He's easy to see. He out in the open with it. Like, Shaitan is an enemy and should be treated as such. So this is a commandment, right? To enter into Islam perfectly, wholeheartedly, sincerely. Right? So then it says, 209, then if you slide back after the clear signs have come to you, then know that Allah is almighty, right? And all wise. 210, then it says, do they then wait for anything other than that Allah should come to them mixed in the shadows of the clouds with the angels? Then the case will be already judged, and to Allah returns all matters. So if Allah is commanding the Muslims, the believers, to enter into Islam wholeheartedly, perfectly, with sincerity, that's something that the Muslims should be doing. Like, it shouldn't be no delay at that. Like, I'm waiting to, whatever people putting on hold, their desires is stopping them from entering into Islam wholeheartedly. So, let me touch the tafsir of that, right? Bismillah. So the tafsir, entering Islam in its entirety is obligated. Allah commands his servant, and this tafsir is Ibn Kathir, Allah commands his servant who believe in him and have faith in his messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to implement all of Islam's legislations and law, to adhere to all of its commandments as much as they can, and to refrain from all of its prohibitions. Now this is what entering into Islam wholeheartedly, entirely, perfectly, with sincerity. This is some of the definition of what it should be, what it is. Bring it back one more time. To implement all of Islam's legislations and law, to adhere to all of its commandments as much as they can, and to refrain from all of its prohibitions. Subhanallah Deen. Al-Afi said that Ibn Abbas said, and also Mujahid, Tawus, Ad-Dahak, Ikrimah, Qatada, Asudi, and Ibn Zayd said that Allah's statement, enter Islam, means Islam. Allah's statement perfectly means in its entirety. This is the tafsir of Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, Abu al-Aliyah, Ikrimah, Arabi, bin Anas, Asudi, Muqatil, bin Hayyan, Qatada, and Ad-Dahak. Mujahid said that the ayah means perform all the good works, and the various pious deeds. This is especially addressed to those from among the people of the scripture who embrace the faith in mind. So not just so there's an ayat where the Bedouins came to the Rasul and they referred to themselves as believers, right? And they were saying, surely we are believers. And Allah told the Rasul, tell them they are not believers because faith is Iman has not entered their hearts yet. They are only Muslims. Now this is a Quran ayat. So when it's saying who have embraced the faith or entered the faith, it's not just talking about merely uttering the Shahada and accepting Islam. It's this. So when you see like the whole breakdown with the hadith from Jibril of Islam, a Muslim is one that has Islam. That's why Muslim, one who accepted Islam. Mu'min, one who has belief, one who has Iman. Mu'min. So Iman is more than just the Shahada. Now these definitions come from the Quran itself, these ayats, and also the hadiths, and this is the correct understanding that the companions had, right? So when it's saying embrace the faith, it's referring to Iman, not just merely accepting Islam, right? So Ibn Abu Hatim reported that Ibn Abbas said that, O you who believe, enter Islam perfectly, refers to the believers among the people of the scriptures, right? This is because they believed in Allah. Some of them still follow some parts of the Torah and the previous revelations. So Allah said, enter Islam perfectly. Allah thus commanded them to embrace the legislations of the religion of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in its entirety, and to avoid abandoning any part of it. You can't pick and choose when it comes to this deen, right? They should no longer adhere to the Torah, which a lot of the individuals here refer to the Torah as the Old Testament, right? They say that the Torah is the Old Testament of the Bible. So it's saying they should no longer adhere to the Old Testament. I want to put that out there to bring it into a better understanding of how we should look at it. Totally abandon the Old Testament. So, we can't be like, oh, well, the Old Testament is all Islam. I'm following this part of it, this, that, and the third. Lie. Right? Allah then said, and follow not the footsteps of Shaitan, meaning perform the acts of worship and avoid what Shaitan commands you to do. This is because, and then they bring an ayat as dalil. He, Shaitan, commands you only what is evil and fasha, right? Sinfulness. And that you should say about Allah what you know not. And now this word fasha, I know these words sometimes when it changes between the kesra and different things, so it's pronounced a different way when it has more meanings. So anybody like, oh, he didn't say fahisha and yada yada yada, right? And he only invites his followers. So we know that hizbiyah is a form of sticking to a particular group just blindly based off the fact this is our group. No matter how wrong, how treacherous we get, we sticking to this particular group and the mindset that's in this group. Like we gung-ho about it. So it's referring to these people who Shaitan able to get a hold of as considered to being a part of his hizb. So hizbiyah is something that the Muslim is supposed to avoid with certain Muslim sects. For instance, just as a definition, you have madhahibs, which is different madhabs. Some of the madhahibs, some of what's in each madhahib contradicts some of what was in the Sunnah. So if you Shafi'i and you come across authentic hadiths that go against what's within your madhab, and then you're going to reject what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam stated and what his companions acted upon, because Imam Shafi'i had a different opinion on something, because those hadiths may had never reached him. So he formed an opinion based off the best knowledge that he had at the time. If you choose to say, well, I'm sticking to this because this is what Shafi'i said and this is from my madhab, that's his biyah. So even though it's in the wrong, you want to stick to it because I'm Shafi'i, I'm Hanafi, I'm Maliki, right? I'm Hanbali. So you're going to reject the Sunnah to stick to that because you up on his biyah. I'm Salafi. Even though you may be with a group that refer to themselves as Salafi, but what they doing goes against the actual way of the Salaf, because they up on his biyah. You don't want to be that type of follower of Shaitan. That's why it's referred to in the Quran as a hizb, right? So it say Shaitan only, they use another. So here go the next Quran. The first ayat they use for Dalil is Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat 169. This is the second ayat that they use as Dalil, which is Surah 35, ayat number 6. He only invites his hizb that they may become the dwellers of the blazing fire. So Shaitan is not inviting you or encouraging you because he got love for you because you're his man. Right? Shaitan can trick, like they say, Shaitan can whisper and trick you with permissible things. And you might end up chasing this dunya 1,000 times more than you chase this deen. And then you may be rewarded, because you got to keep in mind, Shaitan has shayateens. Shaitans have soldiers in this world too. And Shaitan can whisper. So you might feel like, I got this good job, right? And this good job pays all this money. Or I'm out here in the streets and I'm getting this money. But this good job and this good money that you're getting in the streets, or from YouTube or from wherever you getting it from, Instagram, OnlyFans, whatever, because unfortunately I know some Muslims that done jumped on OnlyFans. But you may feel like doors is opening for you, and you will say, Allah is blessing me. But see, Shaitan can whisper to those other shayateens that's within his hizb to give you that job, because he know that's going to take you further away from Allah. And then you get further away from Allah, you get further away from Allah. Shaitan might have that person come bless you with that pack and put you on. Shaitan might have that person that introduce you to OnlyFans, whatever it is. And then you have this money and you feeling like your life is different. And then you will say, Allah has done this for me. Allah is so merciful. But you have to look at what's going on. Shaitan has soldiers too. And the reason why Shaitan is doing this for you, he don't care how much good you get up out of it. His only reason for doing it, like Allah tells us in the Quran, ayat 35, verse 6, Shaitan only invites his hizb. so that they may become dwellers of a blazing fire. No ifs, ands, buts, or maybes. And they might be calling themselves Muslim because they may have accepted the Shahada. But how did this happen? Because they didn't enter into Islam wholeheartedly. They didn't stick to what was legislated. They didn't stick to the good. They, well, I don't need to learn. I don't need to do this. And while I'm touching this tafsir, let me finish it because it's a story, a true story that made me want to bring this tafsir of the day about that type of mindset. So as we continue on, hence Allah said, verily, he is to you an open enemy. Allah said, then if you slide back after the clear signs have come to you, meaning if you deviate from the truth after clear proofs have been established against you, that means if the clear proofs have been established against you, you ain't gonna have no excuse on Yom Qiyamah, because the proof has been established against you. And these proofs is definitely in Quran al-Kareem first and foremost. Right? The religion that you entered into and took your Shahada is going to testify against you. So, and then know that Allah is Almighty in His punishment, and no one can escape His vengeance or defeat Him. You can't escape Allah's vengeance, and you're not going to be able to defeat Allah. Why we not entering into Islam wholeheartedly is a question that we really need to ask ourselves, because there's too many things that we going to have to give up. That's falls in lines with our desires. But check this out, right? And then and Allah is all wise in His decisions, actions, and rulings. Hence Abu al-Aliyah Qatada and Arabi bin Anas said, He is mighty in His vengeance, wise in His decisions. So the decision that He make on how He going to deal with you is going to be extremely just. No ifs, ands, buts, or maybes. No doubts about it. Like the Quran say, this is a book in it in which there is no doubts. There's nothing to be doubted in here. This is the truth, whether you accept it, whether you like it, whether you love it, or whether you hate it. Now, ayah number 10. Now look what Allah says. To referring to this particular individuals where the warning first comes, enter into Islam entirely, perfectly, wholeheartedly, sincerely. Right? Allah says, if you backslide and then you don't do this, look what it says. Do they then wait for anything other than that Allah should come to them mixed in the clouds or over the clouds or hidden behind the clouds, hidden in the shadows of the clouds and angels, or with the angels? Are they waiting for Allah to show up hidden in the clouds with the angels? So you know that right there. That's just like if you was a kid and you got in trouble with your parents. And you knew you was in trouble and you got sent to your room or wherever you was at, and you heard them footsteps coming. And you knew what time it was. When Allah makes that decision, you know what time it is. And then it says, then the case will already be judged. You ain't going to be able to plead your case. You ain't going to be able to say, oh, well, Allah, I meant this. The decision has already been made. It's rump time. It's rump time. And this is why some of the Muslims need to look into what is some of the punishments that an individual gets on earth? Do you know that a punishment from Allah is that He could take away your deen from you? That you can be wandering around here just totally oblivious to His laws and legislations? That Allah can punish you that way. Which we can get into the deleals and things for that. You need to look into the, you know what I'm saying? Even in Quran al-Kareem, like when it speaks about those who have a disease in their heart. What happened? Allah increases that disease. Even if they read in the Quran, they won't get it. Because it's rump time. May Allah protect us all from that. So, what it says, so some more of the Tafsir. So then the Quran ayahs with a little bit of the Tafsir. So here we go. So do not delay in embracing faith. We're saying, do they then wait for anything? What are they waiting on? So they go to the do not delay in embracing Iman. Right? Do they then wait for anything other than that Allah should come to them mixed in the shadows of the clouds with the angels? The meaning is, on the day of resurrection, to judge the early and the latter creations, Allah shall then reward each according to his or her deeds. And whoever does good shall see it, and whoever does evil shall see it. This is why Allah said, then the case will be already judged, and to Allah returns all matters. There's no escaping it. There's no escaping it. So there's more tafsirs on it, but it just brings a little bit more dalil to these situations. So just one more. Similarly, Allah says, nay, when the earth is ground to powder, and your Lord comes with the angels in rows, and hell will be brought near that day, on that day will man remember, but how will that remembrance avail them then? What good is it going to do when the matter has already been judged, and it's rump time? Remembering Allah at that point, how is it going to avail you? The decision has already been made. So you have Muslims, man, who tell you when you trying to deen or you really trying to follow the way Islam's supposed to be followed, they'll say you too serious. You take Islam too serious. You take Islam too serious, Ukti. You don't have to do all that to be a good Muslim. Do they not see what the Quran says? Do they not see these warnings that Allah has given us? That type of speech, Allah knows my heart, that type of speech is not one who has entered into Islam wholeheartedly, to where the part where that Iman has touched their heart. Now, just a little story I'm going to close out with. True story. Wallahi. When I was coming up, my best friend, man, you know, like, this was my man. You know what I'm saying? This was my guy. So, you know, he wasn't really into religion, you know, growing up. But he did believe that there was a God. You know, he made fun of Christianity, right? So he ended up going to prison. So by the time he had went to prison, he had, you know, he was in a gang. So when he got to prison, he got his real gang literature, and Islam was mixed in it. So he believed in God, there was a God. So, you know, needless to say, he accepted Islam. And when he accepted Islam through the gang literature, he kind of toyed with the Moorish American literature, seeing what was to that, and then he toyed with the Nation of Islam literature and seeing what was to that, and he just couldn't accept that Farrar Muhammad was Allah in person. Well, we used to have these conversations on the phone because before he accepted Islam in the prison, before he actually got to prison, I had already accepted Islam on the streets. Right? So we used to talk about it. So when he was in prison, astaghfirullah, I've never been to prison, alhamdulillah, inshallah, bismillah ta'ala, I never go. But, excuse my tongue. But while he was in prison, we used to, talk on the phone, have these conversations. And, he used to always say, when he come home, he gonna take his religion serious. He gonna really get into the Deen, and and we used to have these conversations. And he at the time he have a Quran. I used to read the Quran to him on the phone. Different things. We used to have real Islamic conversations. So anyway, when he came home, right? Unfortunately, the brother jumped into the drug gang. He jumped back into the streets, gang banging and hustling. And this put a strain on our relationship because I was going the opposite direction. So we wasn't really around each other much, and then I had moved to a different city. But we used to have conversations, and he used to tell me, well, I'm finna just hit these streets and I'm gonna get my money up. And once I get my money up, I'll just always be straight. Then I'll give me a little job and I'm gonna take my Deen serious. I'm gonna start going to the masjid, I'm gonna get married, I'm gonna have all this money stacked up, and then give me a decent little job and live off my job money. Give me a nice little home, a little wife, a family. He already had a son. So I was like, all right, sounds good. But unfortunately, he got murdered. He got murdered in the streets behind some stuff he didn't even have nothing to do with. Some stuff that wasn't even his business. But because the individuals that they felt like committed a different murder and retaliated on him, they felt like he was a big target because he was getting money. So if we take him out, he's also a leader in that gang and he's getting money. So that's like kill the head and the body gonna fall type of analogy. Plus the people they felt like did the murder they was retaliating for, they felt like they was his guys. And he was close to them. So it made him an easy target. But the point is, he died. That brother was murdered. To my understanding, even had a nice little amount of drugs on him. He just came from a re-up when he got murdered. And I used to tell him all the time, a gun isn't protection. It's protection because you can shoot it, right? But a gun doesn't stop bullets. A gun don't stop bullets, bro. And that man died with his gun on him. Some of his family took the drugs off of him, took the gun off of him, and put it up. And they left that man outside, man, for his whole family. And a lot of the people in the city came, because, he had a nice little name for himself. And they came and looked at him dead in the streets. Dead in the streets. And that always, that hit me in my head because he had all these plans about all the money he was going to get. He had his whole life planned out. And then he was going to take Islam serious. Then he was going to take Islam serious. But Allah had a different plan. And unfortunately, that man was doing everything under the sun. Girlfriends, anything, whatever it was, that wasn't even supposed to be done Islamically, he was doing it. And he died up on that. And that always stuck in my head. So like when I see people and I talk to people, and it was a turning point for me. And unfortunately, that wasn't the first, it kind of made me want to get serious, but the dummy part in me made me say, and this was a whisper from Shaitan, I'm finna pick up where he left off. I'm finna go hard in the streets. I'm finna pick the ball up where he dropped it. I'm finna go hard in these streets. Chasing paper, all that money he was trying to make, I'm gonna go out there and get it. This is how Shaitan switched that trickery over into me. But see, the beauty of it is, Allah had a different plan for me than he had for him. I went hard for about 6 months. You know what I'm saying? And then Allah set me down tremendously by popping one of my guys off that was right next to me. And that was enough of a warning for me. You know what I'm saying? Y'all popped him. Y'all looking at the whole crew. Let me sit down. And I was done. And then I seen another Muslim get locked up and accused for murder. And when he got locked up for that murder, became one of the best Muslims while he was in county fighting the trial. Became you would have thought he was one of the companions. He became so Muslim, man, you would have thought he was one of the Sahabas. And then, alhamdulillah, he was acquitted for that murder and touched the streets. If you seen him today, you wouldn't think he was one of the Sahabas. But I looked at that situation, and then I looked at both of those situations. These was two people I was close to. And I said, man, let me get my deen right before something happens to me and I never get the chance. I never get the chance. I was just looking at a lot of people's stories. Like, I remember I wasn't really into Hamza Yusuf, but this was so long ago. So, I didn't know he was a Sufi or whatever he had going on with him. I just seen him in his early days before he really had a name for himself. And he was doing an interview and he was saying how he was in a bad accident where his back was broke and, he was totally out of commission, and he was in a hospital bed and they had to flip it over where he faced the ground all the time because of how bad his back was. They thought he would never walk or anything. And he was like, at that moment, he was like, if he ever get to walk, if he do this, he gonna take his Islam serious. It was a tremendous story. And, he got as serious as he could possibly get. A lot of people in the world know Hamza Yusuf right now. But that was some of the beginning of his story from getting serious. So I said to myself, let me get serious before something happened to me, because I felt like the sincerity, if I'd make the choice right now, it's more sincerity in it. Not like, okay, I'm in prison, I'm on my way to the joint, I'm in the county fighting a case for whatever. Let me get right with Allah so he'll spare me. It kind of takes some of the sincerity away. If I would have done it, I can't say what was in another person's case, but in my head, I felt like it would have took a little bit of the sincerity away. So when people say you take Islam, man, you just a little too serious. It ain't. You don't have to do that. Islam is as long as you really believe, and a whole lot of stuff, man, that you could tell. And it's not no knock to these individuals, but they've never sat in a classroom. You know what I'm saying? And then it be individuals who have a certain type of thing, like they'll look at me and say something like, because I wear thobes or because I do things a certain way, or you trying to ding like them Arabs. You trying to ding like a foreigner. But on the flip side, they want to run to the foreigners who not educated for real and ask them how to practice their deen. But then say, you just trying to act like a foreigner. No, you trying to act like a foreigner. Because just because he's a foreigner don't make him the cream of the crop. You see what I'm saying? So I was listening to a student of knowledge, and they was basically saying a lot of these groups that people be joining, certain groups of, they was even referring to, in America, certain groups that were certain sects of the Salafis, and then certain sects of who fanatics with their madhabs, the Malikis and stuff, right? They were saying the reason why some of these groups won't put forth any type of effort for you to learn Arabic language, because if you learn the Arabic language, then you're going to have the key to get in those books. You're going to have the key to sit down and listen to the ulama, the big scholars, listen to their lectures and understand them, and then you're going to have an understanding that they don't have. And once you get that understanding that they don't have, you're going to find out exactly what they've been hiding from you. So you're intentionally not being taught what's going to give you the foundation that you need to realize these individuals now who I thought they was. I'm not saying they not good Muslims. Ain't nobody saying that. I'm not saying they not nice people. But I'm speaking on the terms where they'll look at a black person who trying to follow the sunnah, or who may wear a thobe because they know the importance of the way the thobe covers the aura, and it's not imitating the kuffar. Are you just trying to carry like one of the Arabs? You trying to carry like one of the foreigners. But they want to run to a foreigner who ain't even studied no Islam at all. You know what I'm saying? You think because he came from a country that has a Muslim city in it, that means he's automatically a top-notch Muslim. You come from a Kafir country. You come from a Christian country. And just because you're able to say some stuff about the Bible don't make you a top-notch Christian or a scholar of the Bible. Being from a country that has a Muslim area in it doesn't automatically qualify you to be a top-notch Muslim with ilm. Just like how they say, just because a person is an Arab, you can come from the bloodline of the Rasul and some of the companions, and you're able to trace your bloodline back to them people. But if you don't go learn Islam, then you're not going to know it. That stuff isn't knowledge. That stuff isn't how to practice it. But that flip side is, are you too serious? You this. You trying to dress like the foreigners. You trying to be like the foreigners. Like you have an issue with them, but you want to run to them for every single question that you have, because they're going to leave you lackadaisical. Exactly where you want to be left at. You understand? And I'm not saying that's in everybody's case, but once you start to know and you start to understand, and then you see the way that they understand Islam and where their point of views came from, it'll make perfectly good sense to you. If your Islamic circle isn't making you better, or at least helping you maintain the level that you're on, but instead your Islamic circle is making you get worse with justifications, you're in the wrong circle. You falling up behind the wrong people. But that's what you want. So like, even when you get into a book that I'm doing called 40 Recommendations for the Muslim Home, right? It goes in to speak on, it's a section on choosing a spouse. And it goes to speak on how certain brothers choose certain women who knowledge in Islam isn't really like that, because theirs isn't. And then they don't want that female to surpass them to the point that once she see him, like if you sitting around, if you a Muslim brother and you don't really pray that much, you don't really fast for Ramadan, and you might have some habits. You might smoke a little weed, you might drink, right? Whatever you got going on, you might be a pill popper. You don't want no Muslim sister that's praying 5 times a day on time, getting up at night praying tahajjud, doing sunnah fasting. You're not going to be comfortable with a wife like that. You're going to have to tear her down because why? She's not going to stay married to a brother like you. And vice versa. If you a top notch, if you a brother on that level, and then you got a woman who's sitting around, don't pray, want to wear weave, and just do everything that she's not supposed to be doing, she know you're not gonna stay with her. But a lot of people don't realize some of these individuals that y'all look at as teachers and you turn to, they that exact same way. They that exact same way, but they know that you don't have enough knowledge to know that that's how they are. A person can't give you what they don't have. And I'm just being real. And this is why a lot of the African American Muslim Ummah hasn't grown a bit. And I'm not referring to people as a war of Deen community. That's something that they label themselves. Some of us really haven't done more than what War of Deen them did before the foreigners got here. They was out here working. They was establishing where they really just picked up what the Nation of Islam, the chips that they left on the ground. They just turned them buildings that they had already built to masjids instead of temples, and kind of kept that ball rolling that was already going. You don't see us on that. And you know, they used to sit down and say all the time, man, we done let these foreigners come in and ruin everything. We thought because they were from overseas. You know, I don't, you know, and this is the thing with me, and I'm not trying to get into this. I'm not backbiting. I'm not saying nothing, but I cram to understand how you could pray, you know what I'm saying, praise some people. Respecting them as a Muslim is one thing, but you have some people, man, who come up and build a whole foundation of Islam to the best knowledge that they have, that educate your people, and then the same people who come steal that building away from them and then sell it and not even give them no bread, and then won't even pay for the funeral of the imam because he was War of Deen, or because y'all didn't like how it went and y'all done stole the building from him. The foundation that they laid, y'all didn't lay that foundation, they did. And then you gonna sell this man's the building that they put forth so that y'all could take that money and go get a whole nother one? Like, you know, not really to get into that or make that an issue, but you know, some of us just really need to wake up, man, and be real with ourselves, man, and stop playing, because we don't have the time. And this is something we need to ask ourselves, man. What if Allah take us away from here? Like, what are we waiting on, man? For Allah to come down in the shadows with the angels? What we waiting on, man? And oh man, you too serious. I really, in my head, I really be like, how come you not? You know what I'm saying? You serious, you too serious, you too this. The Deen ain't really got to be that way. And then if you say, well, how come you not? They'll flip it and say, are you judging me? Well, was you just doing when you told me I'm too serious? And it's not a me thing or a personal thing. I talk to a lot of Muslims, man, and this is happening, everywhere. It's happening everywhere. And I'm not trying to make it a black thing, man. I love any Muslim, good or bad or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I just know how to go get in my own lane and move the way that I have to, because only me. I only me can get me in the Jannah, man. And I can't put my deen in somebody else's hands that I know can't give it to me. You know what I'm saying? But that's a tafsir of the day. And you know, for me, that's one of the reasons why I'm so serious, man. I done seen people have all type of plans. But at the time, I didn't have enough deen or wherewithal to be like, you want to use a whole entire haram life to get you to the top. And then you're going to kick your feet up. Like, what if Allah don't allow it? You know what I'm saying? What if Allah don't allow it? So that's just some things, man, that we need to look into, man. We all need to be serious, man. And like y'all can see, you know, anybody who watched that interview that I did and, you know, some other things and people I've been talking to and possibly get to talk to them, I always ask people, what's one of the biggest difference you've seen between the Muslim Ummah in America right now as opposed from 5 years ago? And I'm getting, and all these people is in different cities, and I'm getting some of the same answers. You know what I'm saying? You got Muslims right now who won't even salam you. You know what I'm saying? Some of them misunderstand. You know, oh well, you know, you ain't came to Jumar at our masjids and 3 Jumars, so it's not permissible to salam you. But this is the crazy part. I'm not going to salam you back because you're not the type of Muslim I feel like you should be, because you haven't come to Jumar at our masjids for 3 Jumars. Right? How you get caught up in that? But then look at it as this is not a looking at we a better Muslim than you type of thing. But then flipping and say, oh, you think you're a better Muslim than everybody else. I ain't denying people they salams. I'm aware that angels is right there writing that down. You think I'm going to, with the way that this world is and what we got going on, you think I'm going to miss out on those berakats and then also treating a Muslim with the rights that they supposed to have? Just the berakats that come with saying the salams, and then knowing that the salams is a dua, and I greeted the person with that sincerely, then the angels will wish that same dua up on me. And then on top of that, just acting the type of way towards another Muslim without a real justification, Sharia based. Now that's something I gotta wear on the day of Yom Kippur, and for what? These things we need to think about. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and all of us know everywhere we at, man. You can see some of these foreigners in the store, and if you don't go impose your will up on them, they won't even salam you back. And I ain't talking about just here. Everywhere where we be at. No knock to them. I'm not trying to speak ill of them, but this is a reality. They don't even respect your deen. Like, man, we need to wake up, man. It's what we waiting on, man. For Allah to come down mixed in the shadows of the clouds with the angels. Because if Allah make that decision, he's making it clear in the Quran. It's rump time. It's time for them spankings. You know what I'm saying? But assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And may Allah be with us all and guide us all. Any mistakes that I made came from me and the shaitan. We know that Allah's words is perfect. And we know his Rasul, his messenger, conveyed these messages the way that they were supposed to be conveyed. Didn't leave no stones unturned. That's what we need, man. That's what we need. So one of the things on acting out the Quran and living it out, one of the first things we need to do is enter into Islam wholeheartedly, completely, sincerely, and everything that come with it.